Do you think Brexit is a simple affair? It seems clear-cut. Either Britain leaves the EU on June 23rd, or it doesn't. But we look at these issues from the point of view of Jubilee 2016. As much as we would like to think this is a straightforward socio-political event, we cannot. It is part of a larger story, one that involves increasing chaos as this year moves forward. Of course, we hope for the best, and here at the Dollar Vigilante, we are huge proponents of secession. In fact, we'd like to see secessionist movements continue until all 7 billion people on Earth have seceded from forced ownership by a violent and thieving cartel called government. But whether pro or anti-Brexit forces win, there will be difficulties emerging from this vote. For instance, with a Brexit, the inter-Irish border would have to harden. Police and border guards would likely repopulate the area as it would suddenly be seen as an external EU border. As the UK Telegraph notes, after a successful Brexit, the atmosphere could be nasty. If Brexit loses, a large portion of British voters may feel considerably alienated, and if Brussels continues its heavy-handed ways, Britain may fall prey to considerable anti-EU violence, not just right away, but over time as the EU advances and consolidates even more power. Chances are this second scenario could play out. While there is a chance Brexit will succeed, most secession movements in recent memory have failed. I remember watching the Canadian-Quebec secessionist movement lose by 0.1% when I was younger. Since then, we've seen many others fail, with the most recent being the Scottish secessionist movement from the United Kingdom under very, very suspicious circumstances. An excellent crowd-funded documentary was recently released, which does an excellent job of showing why Britain should do everything it can to escape from the clutches of the European Union. I highly recommend everyone watch this documentary. I was aware of what a fascio-communist tyrannical technocracy the European Union has become, but I didn't even realize just how bad it had gotten until I saw this film. You really just have to see it to believe it. No wonder the British want to secede. If every Briton really understood what was at stake by staying in the European Union, I'm positive none would want to remain in the EU. However, the British government is doing everything within its power to make sure that most people don't have access to this information. In fact, one mainstream media program in the UK, who republishes our content, told us to make sure we don't post anything on their site regarding Brexit. According to them, if they even mention the word Brexit, they will be shut down by the UK government. So much for freedom of speech. But don't get too excited. We don't actually believe Britons will get a fair chance to decide if they want to be perpetually owned by a monolithic, tyrannical organization called the EU or not. In fact, it's possible the whole thing could be a ruse. It never made much sense that David Cameron would allow a vote. But perhaps London's bankers were interested in a renegotiation with Brussels that would yield more financial flexibility. If that's what they wanted, they achieved at least some of their goals. And now Britain will have to stay in the EU to activate the new agreement. And there will be bitterness, some violence no doubt, and other more lingering ramifications. By hook or crook, Britain will probably stay in. Cameron will cook the vote if he has to, just the way he probably did in Scotland. You see, the globalists have an agenda, and the EU is a big part of their agenda. They will do almost anything to keep it in place and morph it into a worldwide government that employs the same fascio-communist tyranny on the entire world. We don't know who's going to win, but unfortunately, there will be social, political, and economic unrest no matter what. It could impact stocks, bonds, or world currency markets, or everything all at once. And for those in Britain, especially, the changes could go on for a while. Expect a false flag event to scare people into wanting to stay in the EU, or if by some miracle the vote isn't rigged and Britons vote to leave the EU, expect a massive false flag in Britain soon after as a repercussion. We'll be covering all of this in upcoming issues of our Dollar Vigilante newsletter. It's a very important vote and the ramifications could be considerable. You can subscribe at dollarvigilante.com/subscribe. And make sure your friends see this movie Brexit. Because if the elite have their way, the fascio-communist technocracy that is currently destroying Europe under the EU banner is what they have planned for their one world government agenda. Just watch the movie. It isn't pretty.